Hi guys, so today I'm going to show you the process for this reference and painting. This is a house in Portland that I saw when we were in Oregon, and I took a picture. I actually went ahead and photoshopped the house number out of it just because I don't know, the internet's a weird place and I don't want people like going to their house. I'm also not going to put this painting on YouTube for that reason. This is kind of like a personal piece for me. I saw this house in Portland. I loved the lights. I thought it looked so cute, and I just wanted to paint this contrast here. Like we've got the blues all around it and then the warm lights just in this area. So yeah, I'm actually going to edit this reference a little bit to kind of experiment and see if I want to change a few things, maybe like brighten it up just slightly in some parts, but I haven't really painted many structural things. So many of my paintings are just nature related and water related. There's really not a lot of harsh lines in my work at all, and I just kind of wanted to experiment with that and challenge myself a little and paint a house, because I don't think I've really done much of that. I remember I painted New York a couple times and I sketched it, and I've sketched houses before, but never really actually painted it. So right here I'm just editing the curves, and I'm going to switch it to the blue. See if, I think I'm just going to leave it like that. And going into the red, see if we can make it a little bit greener. Warm up the worms. Nah, not so much. No. Kind of like it like this. Oh, we can make it slightly greener over there. Let's see, maybe over here it'll make it. Yeah, I'll just leave it that way. Let's see. Anything else I could do to this? I feel like if I raise the saturation, it'll be just way too blue. Yeah. I mean, it does warm up the warm parts, but that's okay. I think it's already saturated enough. And then I was wondering if I should maybe crop it. I don't know. The other thing I want to do is put a grid over it. So I think I'm actually going to keep this as is, just like that. Actually, you know what? Let's see if it was better. No, I'm going to keep it like this. And I also want to crop it because the painting itself is going to be 5x7, I think, or 6x8. You know what? Let's do 6x8. I'm actually going to do it on canvas paper. And I'm going to prime that with gesso, and then, sorry, I'm adjusting myself. So I need to place a bit of a grid here in order to get some of the proportions right. I'm going to show you guys how I do that. So I don't think I already have my pattern set. So you go to Edit, Define Pattern. Oh, sorry. I'm just kidding. You're going to go to Edit, Fill, and select Pattern. So normally I would define a pattern of like a grid or something. It would be like 100 by 100 or 200 by 200 pixels. So I don't have that. I'm going to open my file. Alright, so I have a pattern that I already saved, and it's basically just like a square, a transparent square. It's a PNG file. It is 100, actually let's check how large it is. Yeah, it's 200 by 200 pixels, and if I want each inch to be a square, I'm going to have to basically double the dimension. So let's see how much this is right now, if this would even fit the 6x8. It fits perfectly. Well, what do you know? So if I put a grid on this right now, the squares are I'm not gonna get 8 squares. I'm gonna get 4 and 3. And I want there to be 8 for 8 inches. So we're going to just double that because it's 200 by 200. So we're going to do that. Okay, now I'm going to go into this. You can see it's transparent, but if we zoom in on the side, you can see there's just a very slight white line. I made this earlier. If you guys want this particular box, I'll actually just give it to you for download so you can define your own patterns, or maybe I'll just make you a pattern that you can place over it. But I should make a separate video dedicated specifically to that so you guys can apply your own grids. Okay, so we're just going to go edit. Now we're going to go into define pattern. Just going to do that. And then I'm going to edit fill. And now we have this pattern here. We're going to place that over. And you can see we've got 8 squares by 6. So that's 8 by 6 inches. I usually just measure it out by pixels. So if I have an 8 by 8 pixels, I'll do 800 by 100 by 100 or 200 by 200 and then just do the math that way. So very easy, very simple. I hope I'm making sense here. I feel like I kind of ran through that very quickly, but that's basically how I do it for all my paintings. And yeah, so now I have my reference. All I really have to do is to place the grid on the surface that I'm painting on. So I'm going to save one file that's gridded and then another one that isn't. So we're going to go Portland house gridded. Okay. And then I'm going to take the grid away. Command Option Z. And then we're going to go Portland house, delete the gridded part, and then I have my reference. So all I have to do is just search for it and open it up in my computer. I'm actually not going to print this one. I'm just going to reference my computer. I'm not aiming to make some crisp, accurate, detailed thing. I'm just going to try and do a study of this house. It's going to be very loose, very painty, but because it's smaller, I'll be able to show you more of the process and how it went. So I'm working on canvas paper today. It's a study. I don't really want to put this on an actual canvas or wood panel. Canvas paper is really great for studies and smaller paintings and just for practice so you don't waste any canvases if you're scared to do that. So I chopped up a piece of the canvas paper into 6 by 8 dimensions, and then I taped it to this wooden board that I use as backing for some of my studies so I don't get any furniture or studio stuff painted. And then I primed it with this studio gesso from a local art store, and unfortunately it does warp it a little bit, which does go away once I start painting, but it is kind of annoying that it did that. The warping kind of bothered me at first. At that point I wasn't sure if it was going to go away, but it did. At this point I really didn't know, but regardless I went ahead and drew on the grid. I used a ruler to measure out an inch and put a little note, like a little dot or line, to know where to line up the ruler to draw on the grid. So it's 6 by 8 inches. And although the paper is exactly 6 by 8 inches, I did tape over it, so there's a very slight border around it, so the painting itself is just going to be a tiny bit smaller than that, which is okay. I was just trying to get a nice clean border, which I normally don't have in my studies, especially in my sketchbook. They're usually just like painted on there and really messy. But I ended up really liking the crisp edges, so you'll see later once I peel the tape off. It's super satisfying. I'm using Gamsol for the underpainting, and it's in this dish that's been used countless times, so there's a bunch of dried up paint on it. It's not going to mess with my Gamsol or dilute it in any way. It's still clear. It's all dried up, but that's what I'm using to dip my brush in while I paint the underpainting. It's going to be a very diluted layer, and I'm going to be using burnt sienna for that. I'm just going to use the grid as a guide for the shapes of the house. Basically just paint all that stuff on there just to get a basic map, very faint sketch and outline of the overall painting down. The underpainting part is pretty self-explanatory. It's also probably the most boring part of the painting for me because it's just this one-toned layer. But once I'm through it, it really helps me, and the color part seems so much less intimidating. I like having some very basic values and shapes down. I found this way of working just helps me work faster at the end of things, and I just really enjoy having the underpainting there before I do the colors, despite how boring the underpainting is. And normally I would tone the surface completely with a coat of burnt sienna or burnt umber or even yellow ochre sometimes, but mostly it's burnt sienna. So I would just cover the entire surface with burnt sienna, and then I would draw on the grid, and then I would go in again with burnt sienna, maybe even some white paint, and then make those shapes. But this time I just started off with a blank surface and just did the underpainting on a blank white surface versus a toned surface. So that's just something a little bit different this time around. But yeah, normally I would just go ahead and tone the entire thing and then draw on the grid. I just didn't want to wait that long for it. I was kind of like stoked to start this painting, so I was just like, screw it, I'm just going to draw on the grid. And sometimes I tend to do that for my other paintings as well. It just kind of depends on what kind of mood I'm in. Sometimes I'm more patient with my pieces and I have a bunch of canvases or panels that are pre-toned, but if I'm really excited for a piece and I don't have a canvas that's already been toned and painted and dried so I can draw on the grid and then do the underpainting, I'll just start with the blank white surface and do the underpainting that way. But I don't see myself stopping using underpaintings or toning canvases. Sometimes I'll do an underpainting and then, or like a toned canvas, even it's like one even coat of burnt sienna, and then using pencil sometimes I'll draw on a sketch. So it just depends. Like, I like to switch things up every now and then, but having a toned canvas and underpainting is definitely something that I'm going to stick with probably forever, but who knows? I don't know. A lot of my process has changed, even though I thought, oh, I'm going to do this forever. Like, I ended up changing things. So we'll see. You never know. It's this ever-changing process for me, and I love that about painting as well, is that unexpectedly I'll discover something new or like a new way of working, and it helps me. So I don't know. I can't say for sure. So I'm going to go ahead and start mixing some of my colors for this painting. I think I'm going to mostly go with like the blues and then just a warm color because there really isn't all that much variety here. So just going to take some ultramarine blue and titanium white. A little bit of, which black is this? I think it was ivory black. Just gonna mix all that together. I don't need to mix a huge amount of colors because it's a small painting. Also, by the way, it is dry. The surface is dry underneath, which is why I have this on top of the painting. But yeah, I'm just gonna mix like the very basic tones, and I'm gonna leave these colors up here so that I can still use them and add them to my colors if I need to. But because it's kind of annoying to have to remix with your brush the same exact color over and over again, that is why I'm just doing this. Really need to get more ultramarine blue because I'm seriously running out. So the blue here, it has a bit of a green kind of tone to it. It's not like 300% blue. It's like a grayish green. So I might have added a bit too much titanium white there, but that's okay. Just gonna add a teeny bit of sap green, a little bit more than teeny, but it is transparent, so it's not going to make this green. It's still good. All right, this is pretty much the color of some of the house and some of the dark grass. Just gonna leave that there. I'm gonna mix another blue, this time much darker, with more black, more sap green. These are gonna be our most shadowy parts. Still little bits of white here, but that's okay. Just gonna place that there. And then I'm gonna mix a bit of a lighter blue. I still have this dark color on my knife, but that's okay. Titanium white. Gonna add a little bit of green. It's kind of hard to mix when you have like a pretty large palette knife and not that many colors on it. So I'm just gonna increase the amount of colors ever so slightly. I'm just used to mixing way more colors. It's kind of hard to do. Needs more blue, which of course I'm already out of. Go figure. Ooh. Alright, I refilled it. Sorry if you hear Aries barking. He probably hears things outside. Aries! This blue isn't quite vibrant enough, but it's still a color I'm going to need. So I'm going to go ahead and wipe up my palette knife just to get all this color off. And then wipe down the actual palette. And then I'm going to pick up more blue. Some white. I'm going to try to create a bit of a brighter blue that doesn't have any remnants of black paint in it. This one's a bit more of what I need. Also, I'm trying to use as limited colors, as limited as possible is what I meant to say. So we only have cadmium lemon, probably need some yellow ochre at some point, some cadmium red light to be precise, ultramarine blue, sap green, and black paint. So pretty limited color. Most of these would be in any student grade set, or you can just nix the yellow ochre if you don't have that, but it's fairly easy to mix yellow ochre. Okay, so you know what? We're just gonna add a teeny bit more blue. It's a little bit more than teeny. Definitely made a difference, but it's a very bright blue on some of those pillars in the house. So just gonna mix these. You can see the difference. That one's got remnants of black paint, yellow, sap green, because I pretty much derived it from these two colors that I mixed. Some of it was left on the palette, but this one was its brand new own color by itself. I'm gonna go ahead and wipe my palette knife again, get these out of the way. And now I'm going to mix some of the very deep dark green in the bushes and the trees. So I picked up some sap green, some ultramarine blue, some cadmium lemon. We're just gonna mix that. See what we get. Need some more blue. Most of this painting has very heavy blue tones, so it's kind of what I'm sticking to. Could probably use even more blue than that. Ultramarine blue is just such a versatile color. I love it. Okay. I think that's pretty much it. Probably gonna change that up a bit. Okay, just gonna wipe the palette, wipe this again, and I think the last blue that I'm going to use is going to be the sky color. So I'm gonna put some more ultramarine blue on my palette because apparently I just can't get enough of this stuff. So I'm gonna take some ultramarine blue and a fair amount of titanium white. The titanium white is definitely a larger portion here. And I'm just gonna mix that together. This one I feel needs some cadmium lemon because the sky is not quite that blue. It has a very, very mild lean towards the yellow side. Again, obviously still very blue, but I can tell that there is some yellow tone in there. We're just gonna mix that. And it's not perfect, again, because we're working with a limited palette, and that definitely has an effect on how bright and how vibrant your colors can go. These are more earthy colors. Are great for more earthy tones, not so much the super bright saturated ones. This needs more blue. And I figure what I'll do is, because it fades from like a blue to more white, I'm just gonna create that color with white paint once I get to that point. Alright, so sky color, pillar colors, various parts of the house, shadows, all that, and then bushes.